Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Take Two Radio. This is Pam, your host, and tonight, of course, I have with me Dawn. How are you doing, Dawn?
I'm great. I hope you are, Pam.
I am, too, and I know you're super excited.
Yes, I am extremely excited over who our special guest is this evening. It's been a long time coming. We've missed him dearly.
Okay, well, go ahead and take it away. Introduce him. This was your invite.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all of you to the show today, and we have a wonderful, wonderful guest with us. You know him as Josh Lewis from the CBS daytime drama Guiding Light, and we have severely missed him since the entire show has been off the air. And I'd like to bring on Robert Newman. Hello and welcome.
Hi, you got me all teary-eyed right there. That was really sweet. It's nice to be missed.
Believe me, you have been missed. We have missed Guiding Light and the whole Josh and Reva storyline, the Spaldings, the Lewises, I mean, you name it, the Bowers. Oh, my gosh. It's really good to hear your voice again, I must admit.
Well, I miss you, too, just so you know. I miss all the fans. I miss all the people who were so dedicated to that show for so many years. I run into people on the street all the time who actually get a little weepy with me from time to time and talk about how much, what that show meant to them in their lives and how they're just so sad that they can't ever follow the lives of these characters anymore. It's sad.
How do you handle that when somebody comes up to you and they start crying?
Well, I try not to cry with them. Because, the general rule in soap opera is if one actor's crying, you shouldn't be crying too,
right.
Because only one should be crying at a time. But I just talk to them and tell them about, usually tell them a story or two about, some fun stuff that went on, or talk to them about the last day of shooting or something like that, and I thank them. Almost every single fan I talk to, I say this: thank you for helping put my kids through college.
Oh.
And believe me, we were very glad to put your kids through college and to keep you gainfully employed. I really do mean that. I started watching Guiding Light probably when I was in middle school, and that would have been in the 80s, and just followed it to the very end. And the time that I was the most entrenched in watching it was when Philip and Beth and Rick and Mindy were kind of one of the core storylines, and then of course the Josh and Reva,
sure.
The whole Lewis family storyline those were the main fixtures to the show, and the Bower storylines. It was just unbelievable, the writing that that came out of the Guiding Light and the stories that were created. I mean, you almost felt like you were part of the story. You were part of the family. And it was just so believable, and it was just so heart-wrenching. That was my favorite daytime drama. So I was just like, no, when they said you guys are going off air, I was like, this can't be. What in the world? Forever. You grew up with daytime, with my grandmother, then my mother, and it was a very generational thing. And you never once in a million years thought that anything would ever replace daytime. You never thought any daytime drama would go off air. It just was unthinkable.
That's for sure.
And when it started to happen, it was like, wait a minute, this can't be. What will people do who are accustomed to watching daytime drama? I mean, what will they do now? And of course,
I assume they're going to tune into a cooking show or a game show. Is that not right?
Heck no.
I think that's what the networks were sort of bargaining with. That's what they were counting on.
I know, and some of them have already bit the dust. So I know two of my soaps on ABC, All My Children and One Life to Live, got canceled, and I have never watched not 1 second of what they replaced it with.
Well, I think that's probably true of a lot of people who watch their favorite soap opera give way to a talk show or whatever. I don't even know when we were canceled that the powers that be were really thinking about that. I think they were thinking, oh, well, we'll lose some viewers, but we'll get some new viewers doing this. Mm-hmm. I don't know that the ratings for any of these shows have been significantly different. I know that we were replaced by a game show. It's just the bottom line economics. It's a lot cheaper to shoot a game show than it is to shoot a soap opera. But I do feel it's left a huge void in many people's lives, and the idea that would be replaced by some other form of something, another reality show or whatever, is just ridiculous. Of course it wouldn't.
Yeah. And I was talking to Pam before we aired, and I told her, I said, I know you didn't necessarily watch CBS Daytime, but I can tell you, and of all the soaps out there, I felt like, Josh and Reva were, of all mainstream couples, they were the biggest couple in Daytime, I felt like, probably next to Luke and Laura, because it was just, you and Kim Zimmer played your roles to the hilt. It was just, you always knew no matter what happened between Josh and Reva, they would always come back together. And, it was just, you just knew.
Yeah, and that time frame that you were talking about earlier, Philip and Beth, the Four Musketeers, I think they called them, Philip, Beth, and that whole time period, you're talking about Doug Marlin and then later Pam Long, Doug who created Joshua, and Pam Long who created Reva. To me that was really the heyday of the show in my 28-year relationship with that show. Those first few years, and I think specifically about the time when we were going great guns with Kim Zimmer, Jordan Clark as Billy, Larry Gates as HB, Carol Anthony as Rusty. That whole time period right there to me was really the most extraordinary of all of those years. That was really the most extraordinary time to be on the show. Douglas, when Doug Marlin passed away, that whole era of writers passed. That was the end of, to me, just such an amazing time of great writing. But Pam Long stepped up to the plate and did an amazing job as well, and she, I think, continued forward with the Philip and Beth and Rick and Mindy and all that kind of stuff too. That was a great time. That was a great time.
And what a great walk down memory lane for the listeners here, because so many people, I'm sure, like myself, can so identify. And one of my favorite storylines, with the Four Musketeer group was the Christmas storyline where Beth was gone and Philip was trying to find her, and Rick and Mindy got into that, and then you and Reva have had some amazing storylines. I can't even begin to tell you what my favorite one is, but the one thing that is the most memorable for me is, I don't even know what marriage this was, but I remember one of the marriages.
Or divorce.
No, it was definitely a marriage because it involved a wedding, but it was at the height of when I was heavily entrenched in guiding light, and I remember it was the wedding where it was outdoors, and she had on, the Victorian-looking dress, and she came riding up, and it was on the water. Oh, it was absolutely gorgeous. And I really
that shot of her coming across. That shot of her coming across the water in that white dress. We shot that whole thing in Pennsylvania. That was their first wedding, and I was in a white suit. I actually still have the tie that I wore with that white suit. And we were getting towards the end of the day, and they really needed this shot of her in the rowboat coming across. And when I look at that shot today, they start, I think, on the water. They pan up to her, and the sun's sparkling all over the place. And it looks to me like it's a kind of shot that would rival anything that you would see in a beautiful feature film. They just hit everything perfectly in that moment. And Kim, of course, hits that big smile and just looks so beautiful. And to me, that's one of the most beautiful, pristine moments that we ever had on that show, was that one shot of her in the rowboat that I think is the one that you're thinking of. Yeah. Because
when I think of Kim Zimmer, that is what comes to mind, that shot. And it's unbelievable, how Guiding Light was able to capture that, and that has, I'm sure that resounds with so many fans, the show. And one of the things I was talking about before we went live was, I really wish, with web series becoming such a popular thing now, that I wish that someone would recreate, would resurrect, per se, Guiding Light as a web series, and bring some of you guys back, because that would be a made, or even just do a made-for-TV movie or something. I mean, where the fans could get that taste, you know, of reliving what they were so in love with back then.
Yeah,
well, you'd have to, I think, talk to Procter & Gamble about that. I think that they would be the people you'd have to go through to get that to happen, and I'm not sure that would ever happen. I don't know. I see what you're saying, though. It would be a great thing. You can dream. Sure.
Well, that's right. You know, I mean, I would love to see it happen because, quite frankly, I think that in itself would be, you know, web series. I don't think would be near as much it wouldn't be near as expensive to create as you know, full-time daytime drama. But at the same time, you know, it's based on some of the stuff we do have out there to watch now. Not necessarily web, but just on television in general. Oh my gosh. You know, I think it would only take one of the former soaps being resurrected for it to kind of become a trend. I really think it would. But like you say, you'd have to pull some serious strings to get it to happen. But we'll keep hoping and wishing.
Yeah, the business part of that is that they own those characters. It's not like, you know, we can just say, hey, let's get Robert and Kim together and start doing this thing. Yeah. I mean, we could possibly do something like that where we're playing different characters, but in a similar relationship. But it really is, I mean, most of the fans that I talk to about Josh and Reva, it's the history of the two characters. You know, it's not, I want to think that Kim and I had a certain kind of chemistry when we worked together on camera. I think that that's true. And even when we, you know, recently did a musical together, I think that for the one moment we were together on stage in Curtains at a Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, that I think that chemistry still happens there, you know, between the two of us. We like each other a lot. We trust each other a lot. We work in, I think, very similar ways, always searching for the truth of the moment, trying to keep everything as honest and real as it can possibly be. But to do those to just try to do that as other characters, I don't know. I don't think that that's really the kind of thing that you were talking about. I think it's Guiding Light was so rich in its history, you know. I mean, I think about the history of Josh and Reva, even the stuff that we didn't shoot, that we didn't put on the air, that was just so extraordinary, you know, that most of the fans of the show really understood who Josh and Reva were when they were, you know, 5 years old and 10 years old and 15 years, you know. We didn't shoot all those years. But they understood who those two characters were and why they were together and why they were apart, you know, from time to time. You know, that was a pretty special thing. There wouldn't be any
drama in soaps if you guys stayed together and were happy all the time, you know, and it's just not how.
That's always the problem with soaps. Once you get those two people together, then now what do you do? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, keep in mind, Josh was married 9 times.
Oh my gosh!
On the show to 5 different women. He kept remarrying women. He married Olivia once. He married Annie twice.
Yeah.
What's the one that Michelle Forbes played? Sonny, he had to marry twice. I kept on having marriages that weren't real, so I had to annul this one and do that one, and then Reva 3 times, and then Cassie once. Yeah. So 9 marriages, 9 divorces. I always thought, you know, if you're up for like a 2.5, maybe 3-year relationship with a guy, and a good alimony. Josh is your man.
Josh is the guy.
Josh is the guy.
But
I was wondering, which storyline did you feel was the strangest one between you having a presumed dead Reva cloned and another storyline where you were involved in time travel? Did you just shake your head?
And I